Good morning and welcome to Berry's Garden. Today, it's a beautiful sunny day in Cape Town, but I know that Karen is in Johannesburg and we have this amazing opportunity for a conversation together. And I am delighted to welcome Karen Barensche to Berry's Garden. Karen, good morning.
Good morning, Berry. Good morning to everyone who's listening. It's actually a chilly morning in Joburg, but it will get sunny later on today. In fact, we're looking at the rain clouds and wishing it would rain. We desperately need rain here. Unlike Cape Town, that's lots of rain. But yeah, it's good to be with you, Berry. Thank you.
Karen, you've agreed to come and chat to us in Berry's Garden regarding some of the work that you're doing now. And I know that you've been doing a lot more work. You are an internationally acclaimed and renowned medium. And I'd really like to unpack that a little bit with you, especially in the light of the situation that we're in at the moment, the pandemic, COVID-19. My sense is that people are looking for some kind of understanding, some kind of reassurance. I'd like to find out from you how people are responding to you, whether you are doing a lot, having a lot more inquiries from people, and the kind of questions that people are asking. What is it that we need to know? So that's a big conversation. Where would you like to start?
Wow, those are a lot of questions in one, but it certainly has been it is a year of incredible transition for people. And I've certainly found that in terms of my practice, that a lot more people are asking for help, are reaching out, feeling driven really by a feeling of being anxious, of being afraid. You know, what felt sort of secure and safe before doesn't feel that way anymore. And that then I think makes people sit up and pay attention, and there's been a lot of reflection, and in so doing reaching out to spirit for some guidance, for some insight, for clarity. And it's really been incredible to be able to do that, to find the reassurance from spirit for people, the way people have had to make really big decisions about life, really big decisions about their livelihoods, or about their location, all kinds of things in their lives. And also coming into contact with people where there's been really difficult situations where their husbands have been incarcerated, or there's death in the family, and death from COVID. And so having to address those and not only work with spirit, but I found also doing spiritual counseling to a large degree.
Absolutely. So your own spiritual practice, what supports you, upholds you, and keeps you going?
Gosh, Berry, I've been blessed since I was a child to have experienced spiritual healing, and then been made aware of spiritual teachings and esoteric teachings. And over the years, I've read extensively, studied extensively. And I think my base really is a lot in the Alice Bailey teachings that came through, but linked to that, the Blavatsky teachings. Blavatsky was the person who started the Theosophical Society. Incredibly brave Russian woman. She went on her own in the world at a young age where it was not okay for a young woman to be unaccompanied in travel. But she did that, and from her, out of that group, the Alice Bailey teachings came through, where Alice Bailey was really the medium for Master Dwalkul. And those are a big set of teachings known as Lucis Trust. And then there's from there also the Agni Yoga teachings from Helena Rurik, and Nicholas Rurik is known for his famous artwork. There's the beautiful museum in New York, and there's an incredible community in Italy and in various locations around the world. And I'm networked with a number of those members in those organizations. And so I've never felt alone on my journey. And other than physical people, I've just never felt alone. So yeah, really blessed to have found my own practice within meditation and various forms of meditation, various teachers. But always, somehow being drawn to Buddhism and found that to be my sort of base in my own spiritual practice or ritual, if you like. But the teachings are, those are sort of the I suppose, the base of it. And that said, I must just also say that I also read the Bible, and I read the Vedas, and I read the Patanjalis. And so it's, I find that the truth is really in all the teachings. It's the joy is then finding the common threads through them, and just by it being explained in a different way, going, gosh, but isn't that what, I didn't get that there, but I got that here. So that's been and still continues to be an incredible part of my journey, I guess.
Yes, I know that interfaith work remains an incredibly close to your heart, and has been an enormous part of your journey, both in the secular and in the spiritual sense. So having said that, that brings us to a very interesting point, because a lot of people have religious beliefs that would possibly exclude consultation with spirit in the sense that you do it. And they might not always see that prayer is very much akin to a conversation with spirit.
Yes, and I find that is something that I encourage people to embrace, is that the sense of who is helping us beyond the veil is really common to every religion. It is perhaps the wording of that or the understanding of that. And so I find with clients where there's maybe a sense of fear, I really find comes more from superstition. And once they've experienced the love and the compassion, the endless insight and kindness from spirit, that fear that they have evaporates, and not just fear, but also guilt. Guilt of perhaps not being in alignment with their own chosen deity, or spiritual teacher, I guess. And once they realize that it does not exclude that in any way, but rather embraces that and is actually just part of it, I find that then there's a softening. Sometimes there are questions around that for people themselves, and I think that's a good thing. I think it takes us into questioning ourselves a little bit deeper, questioning our faith a little bit deeper, questioning the teachings. And when we start to look at the different teachings and start to find the messages from spirit, and even the writings within their own religions of the evidence of spirit in our lives and what that means, it becomes really comforting. And once that comfort has come in, that sense of, gosh, I'm not alone, even though I'm a widow. I'm not alone, even though I've lost my child. There's a sense of connection and bond. That healing is incredible. And for me, it's a validation that what I do is of good and God. And, I work with Christ Jesus in the readings. And so I find that it really depends on the person, how they connect in terms of what experience they need to have that makes them feel safe. But I find the guides just put that in place somehow. I don't have to do that. Spirit does that. And I'm really grateful for it. But yeah, sometimes it can be a challenge. And yet through the pain, people go and seek the advice, or go and seek answers, especially to the big why questions. And yeah, I find that somehow spirit helps bridge the gap.
So what I'm hearing from you is that the personal conflicts that may exist around approaching a medium are often very much in our own minds, and can be overcome with the love, basically, that love and compassion that surrounds a spiritual relationship.
Very, yes. And an important piece that you're reminding me of is also evidence. I won't know the person who's coming, who's booking a session. I book the session. Yeah. And so in that trepidation that person might have, and yet in their pain of needing to connect with a loved one, especially when it's been, when it's very difficult for us to overcome, there's a loss. When we have an older parent or grandparent who passes away, there's a measure of acceptance that someone's, lived a long life, and, all of us pass into spirit. And so there's more acceptance. But when it happens in either a violent way, or the person, or there's a child who's lost, for example, it becomes really difficult for people to process. I have a client currently whose husband, his wife passed away from cancer, and he's battling. He says, I just don't want to be here. I want to go and be where she is. And, you know, having to help that person through on their journey. But one of the things I found that helps that is evidence. Is where people then receive evidence of the life after death, whether it's the person who's crossed over or whether it's in, you know, in the action, and in the action someone's taken within the last week, and somehow through spirit they address that action. I have one wonderful, wonderful client whose wife, he regularly asks to speak to her. And he must be in his 80s now, I think. And it's fascinating for me how every time she brings through, you know, it's time to prune the roses or something like that. And he just bursts out laughing. He says, I've been sitting all week thinking, if I don't do that, I know she's going to be watching me. And then, and out of nowhere, because I don't know they have a rose garden. I don't know any of that. Or it can be all sorts of things that that spirit warns them of, or an image that comes through. I remember doing a session a couple of weeks ago for a lady, and in the session, I just said, I see this like muddy, sort of like I'm in a desert sandstorm, and there's the sun there, but it's quite, and I said, and your dad's showing me this, and I don't know what he's showing me, I just have to give you the picture. She started laughing. She says, I'm going to send you a photo at the end of our session. And at the end of the reading, she sent me a photograph of a painting she had done. She's a painter. There's a painting of the sandstorm and of the sun, and at the bottom is the sort of hills and valleys. So it's really a scene of this incoming dust storm. And it was her dad's favorite painting, and she was sitting in front of it while doing the session, but this was a phone reading, so I can't see what she sees. And so that was absolute evidence of her dad standing right next to her, looking at this painting. You know, and so for me, when that happens, I get so excited, I get so thrilled. Even though it's coming through me, it's not of me, and I'm always every day in awe of the magnificence of spirit and how it reminds us that we're not alone.
Karen, that's such a beautiful place to end, actually. So I'm going to end there, except for one last piece, and that is, I know that prayer is an important part of not only of our own spiritual practices, but also of reassuring people that we are in fact working with the light, with God, and that is the source of the gift that you have. So I'm going to ask you to close with a prayer.
Thank you, Barry, and thank you for the opportunity. Infinite and divine intelligence, beloved Mother, Father God, we thank you for the privilege of this communion with beloved Barry here today. And we affirm that we are always and forever surrounded, protected, and guided through God's love, light, and wisdom. And may all that we hold most sacred be infinitely and divinely protected. It is done through the mighty I Am, Selah. Thank you, Barry. And so thank you, Spirit.
Indeed. Thank you, Karen. Blessings.